Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the strategies and insights that drive innovative, disruptive businesses. Join us as we explore the mindsets, cultures, and solutions powering the next generation of industry leaders and creative trailblazers. Whether you're seeking to inject new life into your organization or spark transformative growth, the Visionary Chronicles is your guide to executable, cutting-edge business strategy. Hello and welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Again, appreciate you being with me today. We're continuing on the series on a new book that I'll be releasing on June 30th this year, The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. And we're kind of going chapter by chapter to give you a little bit of an insight as to, not only why I wrote the book, but also the content inside the book. And hopefully as you go along in your journey, whether it be personal or professional, you'll get a feel from some of these insights as to how other visionaries were able to achieve their status and who those visionaries are. So welcome to another episode of the Visionary Chronicles. This is a multi-part series, and if you haven't listened to the previous two episodes, I would highly recommend you listen to those prior to listening to this one, because it kind of gives you a little bit of a feel as to where we're going with the series. So again, this series is based off of my new book, which I'm going to be releasing on June 30th, The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles. Shamelessly, for those that aren't watching the video podcast, over my left shoulder here is the book cover, available across all distribution channels. So that'll be available on June 30th. It's the Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. We really profile the principles and the visionaries. So it's an interesting book and a read, and hopefully you'll find that as well. We've gotten some great reviews out there, which we're obviously very appreciative of. So in this episode, we're going to explore the vision, but more importantly, when we talk about vision, people think of this broad scope of what a vision really is, and they kind of think of it from a standpoint of being an element, like vision is just an element of becoming visionary and or leading a company to successfully complete their journey to being a brand. And what we're going to talk about today is a little bit different. We're going to take a little bit of a twist on it. So I'm going to talk about precision vision. Yeah, extra points for rhyming. But we're going to talk about precision vision, the ability to lead with clarity, consistency, and unwavering focus. And the reason I put those in there with precision vision is more often than not, what I find is that when I was putting the book together, leaders that I talked with, as well as leaders and visionaries that I researched, they don't necessarily have all three of these principles in place. Many of them have clarity and consistency, but they don't necessarily focus that well. And others may have unwavering focus and clarity, but they may not have consistency. So we're going to talk about all three. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about, this is in the vision section, chapter 1, and it's precision vision. So I put this as 12 steps to leading with unwavering focus. And I always find, and the feedback that I get from you is that, hey, that step process that you put together really helps me to define where I need to improve. So again, this would be off the vision, which is chapter number 1. It's called Precision Vision, 12 Steps to Leading with Unwavering Focus, and it draws directly from the pages of the Visionary Leader. So we're taking a little bit deeper dive into how visionary leaders use focused vision to cut through distractions. Now, we're all distracted, right? And it could be a big distraction, small distraction. But what I find is how you keep that vision and focus doesn't really matter. You've got a process to how you do it, how you keep consistently setting the vision and also ensuring that you stay on the path consistently to achieving your goals. So this is a focused vision that cuts through those distractions aligns your team and build brands that innovate. Not just innovate, but you innovate with purpose and perform with precision. So again, we're digging deep into how visionary leaders use focused vision to cut through distractions, align their teams, build brands that innovate with purpose, and perform with precision. Now, that's a mouthful and a lot to achieve, but I wanted to kind of talk through these points so you can kind of see really when I do these evaluations with brands. And this is through Liquid Mind, a brand strategy firm that I have here in Southern Cal. And we talk about all of these points. Now, many leaders say, hey, I don't have all of these points. But the point is, if I could reference this, is take a look at where you have strengths when I talk through these. Meaning that where do you have these as a strength? And where do you have these as a weakness? And where do you need to improve? Everybody needs to improve. Even Visionary Brands, my first book, The Visionary Brand, I talk about the principles of becoming a visionary brand. And in The Visionary Leader, I talk about the principles and the makeup, the DNA of visionary leaders. So when you look at these principles, I find it valuable to go through 12. You may not have all 12, but it's aspirational goals. And it's an inspiration that you get from other visionaries that have achieved this status that you can follow. Fortunately, I profile 19 different visionaries in the book through 16 different traits and principles. So when we talk about vision, one of the questions I get is, okay, well, what is precision vision when we talk about this? And visionary leaders, when you look at them, and when I profile them, when I talk about them with Liquid Mind, current visionaries, past visionaries, they don't chase fads. And the reason that I say that is because you'll find many visionaries that are one-hit wonders. And they're not visionary because they've had a one-hit wonder. They're visionaries because they're generational. They're legendary. They leave a legacy that others can follow. They build what's called foundations. Foundations that others can continue to live in. Think of it as foundational pillars of your house, your home, whatever it may be. This is what builds brands, builds companies, builds services, whatever it is. It's a foundational principle that these visionaries have. So they don't chase fads, they build foundations. So precision vision is about identifying critical few tasks that align with your purpose and ignoring the noise. And I know that's difficult. And when I mention noise, people will ask, well, what is noise? You've just become so accustomed on your day-to-day and what you do that you don't even recognize your distraction. And when you look at, let's just say a great example of a distraction is email. Number one, when your brain gets distracted for even a couple minutes, on average, it takes you an hour to get back into the groove again. So you've effectively lost an hour and 3 minutes looking at email for 3 minutes. And another distraction, which many times I get it, is unavoidable. But when you have interruptions throughout the day, people come into your office unexpected, that's something that you have to deal with as an interruption. And ignoring the noise is, which of those two is more important and what's your purpose behind having these distractions? You have to differentiate between the two. And I would say between the two, the value of an employee, a team member, somebody coming in and asking you a critical question that allows you to execute better, execute your strategic vision better, is time better spent from a distraction standpoint than continually looking at your email and being distracted. And just a quick point that I put in the book as well is these distractions. I find that when you time block these distractions, it works better for leaders, meaning that you set aside time. There's never been any email that I've been around or people that have had emails, and I put this question up on the board when I talk to leaders. Has there been any email that you've had over the last year that has required you to return that email within a couple hours? And 99% of the time, the leaders will say no. Then I said, why do you get distracted? Time block. So when they ignore the noise and they have a purpose and clarity of vision, this is what allows them to execute their vision. So where others drift, visionary leaders stay anchored to their long-term direction as a company and as a brand, so their team doesn't lose passion and focus around what you're looking to achieve. So even when storms hit, which they will, it's not a matter of if, but when. They say there's 3 stages to your life. You're either waiting on a storm, in a storm, or having been in a storm. So it doesn't matter what stage you're in, you're eventually going to be in a storm. So when others drift, visionary leaders stay anchored to their long-term direction, meaning that, again, I go back to the previous podcast where I talk about the switchback leadership, which is you can pivot, but never lose sight of your direction and focus as to what your end goal is. You always need to maintain focus as to what your destination is. So even when storms hit, their focus remains fixed, not on today's turbulence, but on tomorrow's destination. That's where you need to keep your focus. All visionaries have this trait. All visionaries keep this precision vision, and they ignore the noise. They lead with purpose, and they never lose sight of their destination. They understand the full health, and I say health of the brand at all levels. They don't just focus on one functional group. They understand the health of the brand is every piece of the brand, whether it's accounting, operations, production, design, product, whatever it happens to be, revenue, people, environment, and the intangible side of the brand, culture, mindset, internal energy, passion. They lead from insight, not just instinct. So as we talk about this precision vision, again, let's talk about these traits. Because many people, again, think of vision as a singular trait, but it's made up of many different things in order to achieve your vision. And with all the distractions that we have going on in our world today, you need to really have this precision vision, meaning how do you maintain your focus through all these distractions? So I just put it in 12 steps. Again, I always say it's not all, but hopefully this helps you in leading with unwavering focus. So I put 12 steps that you can take a look at again. And when I put these on a whiteboard, when I talk with leaders, look for the ones where you need to work on, but also strengthen the ones that you don't need to work on. So let's take a look at these 12 steps to leading with unwavering focus. Number 1 is strategic planning. And this is just not planning, it's strategic planning. Meaning this is where you're leading with humility. Visionary leaders develop long-term roadmaps, communicate clearly, and align their efforts toward a shared destination. This is why I say humility, because many leaders who I don't consider visionary, and I'm sure many of you have had these leaders or been led by these leaders, that they feel like they have to do it all. And the greatest visionary leaders aren't always the smartest person in the room. They're the ones that can set the vision, help others to understand how to execute that vision, and also make everybody inside of the brand feel like they're part of executing that vision. That is a trait of a visionary, and few have it. So strategic planning is number 1. Number 2 is cultural integrity. Too many people don't talk about culture. When you talk about hiring, I can say probably the number 1 reason why somebody doesn't work out at a company that you hire is because you haven't defined what your culture is. Are they fitting inside of what your culture is as a brand, company, or service? And if not, I can tell you they're setting them up for failure. And also, you are going to set your team up for failure if somebody doesn't hold their own in executing their piece of the vision. So they build and protect a brand DNA, I call it. And it's rooted in innovation, inclusiveness, and a purpose-driven purpose or performance, a performance-driven purpose, rather. So they build and protect a DNA rooted in innovation, inclusiveness, and performance-driven purpose. These are all things that are important to your company and brand. And if you don't know what your culture is, you're not a brand. Brands have culture. Brands have bloodlines. Brands have a purpose. Brands have a vision. So cultural integrity is utmost importance, and why I put it at number 2. Most people don't even think about culture, but that's probably one of the most important pieces of being a visionary brand and or being a visionary leader. So number 3 is trend awareness. What I mean by this is visionaries just don't monitor trends. They anticipate them. And most people think when they think trends, well, we're not an apparel company, but this is something that all brands, all services, whatever it may be, needs to understand what's coming down the pipeline and be able to anticipate it. They're proactive. They're not reactive. You need to be the same. And when you're talking about trend awareness, proactivity is what visionaries' trait is. It's not being reactive when it's too late. And many people get run over because they're being reactive. They're not being proactive. And a great example of this is as you go through these distractions, you go through these barriers that you're going to be going through as you go through the journey of achieving your destination, that you need to proactively understand where the market is going, what the competitors are doing, but also understand your positioning in the marketplace. And I always go back to Oakley on this, because when we look at where you're at in the marketplace, we were always the leader in technology, and we knew that. People would follow us, and we didn't necessarily care if they copied previous generations, because we knew that was where the trend was not going. We needed to always be in front of the wave, surfing it for generations and keeping others off our wave. They can do the tail end, or they can catch the tail end of our wave, but they're never catching the front end. So trend awareness is number 3. Number 4 is an obsession with your community. And we talk about the purchase funnel and also the community that you're building as a brand. And what I mean by community obsession is ensuring that customer lifetime value is the lifeblood of your brand. Making sure that you understand that that customer journey has to be executed seamlessly. So they deliver products and services that not only meet needs, but they exceed expectations and anticipate future desires. And this is where AI is going. When you talk about, and think of many times in yourself in particular, wouldn't it be great if they knew and anticipated when and what we needed and why? That's where AI is going. And that's the huge benefit of AI and those that are adopting it, is learning what your community desires are is an important piece of unwavering focus for a leader. So make sure that you have an obsession around your community, not only building it, but more importantly, maintaining what you have. No attrition. And number 5 is team investment. I always talk about team investment because very few people similar to culture don't talk about teaching your team to perform better. They recruit and develop high-impact teams. They're not worried because they've got the greatest culture on the planet, they have the greatest products on the planet, and they have the greatest leaders on the planet. If you're worried about your team members leaving, you don't have those pieces of the puzzle. You should be investing in your team, recruiting and developing your teams to be high impact. Every hire that you make in your company and brand is a future empire builder, not just a position filler. Let me say that again. Every hire is a future empire builder, not just a position filler. And too many companies think of that. They still recruit the same way. which is crazy when you think about if you value your brand, customer lifetime value, your community, your products, your service, what you've achieved as a company, as a leadership position in your industry, and you're going to hire average people with the same process that commodity companies do, that's not a way to build a generational brand. So you as a leader, on your unwavering focus around investing in your teams. Number 6 is a global perspective around who you are as a brand. Visionary leaders will always monitor and adapt to geopolitical and economic shifts. And I can tell you a classic case right now is with the tariffs, and understanding the impact of these tariffs relative to where you've sourced your products is a great example of global perspective. Not everybody can anticipate it, but again, it goes back to proactivity, and it goes back to having a global perspective and anticipating things that can possibly happen and adjusting, not just panicking. Reactivity is not a strategy. Proactivity is. So monitor and adapt geographical and economic shifts proactively, and they position their brands globally with foresight. I talk about future casting. Where do you want your brand to be in the future? Knowing where you are today, where do you want to be in 5 years, and how are you going to get there, and how are you going to work through the barriers such as global perspective as a visionary leader? Number 7 is risk assessment and risk taking. Critical. No brand, company, or product has ever been successful without taking risk. And I say safe is risky from Seth Godin was a great quote. And it follows in line with visionary leaders do. Risk assessment and risk taking. Assessment and risk. Visionary leaders take bold bets, but they also balance them with analysis. You can't continue to bang your head against the wall with the same process that isn't working, that isn't going to move you to the next generation or innovation or disruptive product or service that you need to have in order to stay ahead of your competition. So visionaries take bold bets, but they balance with analysis, always prepping for multiple scenarios. So you want to make sure that you're not just walking down a singular, and I call it the rifle approach, which is very focused, but you need to have some options available for you to pivot if it doesn't work. So risk assessment balanced with risk taking. Number 8 is technology integration is crucial. And I go all the way back to CRM adoption, all the way through where we're at today with AI adoption. They adopt technologies before they're popular. And I'll give you a great example. We work with several mid-cap brands right now that are asking us how to integrate AI into their business. And I always ask the question, why? And they always come back to me, what do you mean, why? We have to. I said, no, you don't have to. If you don't understand your why and how, it's worthless. You have a team currently, you have a brand currently. How is it going to improve your team, your brand, service, or product as a whole, and be able to adopt it where team is actually going to use it? You're not getting rid of humans anytime soon. So you need to make sure you have a strategy around technology integration and how you're going to adopt and integrate it with your current team systems product. So all of these things need to be analyzed. So again, they adopt technologies before they're popular, using them to drive efficiency, innovation, and customer engagement. Number 9 is knowledge culture. I am just anal about culture, so I'm going to talk about it till I'm blue in the face until you understand how important culture is. They create an environment of continuous learning. Now, Google's a great example of this. They set aside 20% of their time just to do this, knowledge culture. And a smarter team equals a more competitive, loyal team. As long as you're investing in your team, they'll invest in you. You don't invest in your team, that's when you have attrition. So a knowledge culture is extremely important. They create an environment. It's one thing to say, for instance, if a company tells us at Liquid Mind that, okay, we're going to adopt this online teaching platform, and we're going to offer it to our team. Without a knowledge culture that gets ingrained where people can actually feel comfortable setting aside time, it's worthless. The team's not going to use it because you haven't adopted a knowledge culture. That's critical. So create an environment of continuous learning. This is precision vision, is that there's other pieces to the vision that need to be put in place in order for you to be successful as a company and generational as a brand. Number 10 is financial sustainability. And I put sustainability in there because too many people are short-term thinkers. And you need to think long-term financially. It's not a day-to-day. It's not a week-to-week, month-to-month. It's generation to generation. Long-term vision demands fiscal discipline. These leaders make sure the engine has fuel for the journey. You need to make sure that you have sufficient resources, sufficient funding in order for you to achieve the vision that you've set. Otherwise, you just create frustration. And as quick as you build passion, it dissipates as quickly as you originally put it in place. So financial sustainability, long-term vision, which demands fiscal discipline, and making sure that the engine has fuel for that journey that you've set in place. Number 11 is performance standards. Hey, at the end of the day, you need to understand what you're looking to achieve. And when we talk about KPIs, which many people throw this term around, I'll make it simple for you. Just regularly assess what's working and what needs to evolve to stay aligned with your mission. You can put KPIs in place, but if it becomes micromanaging, non-humility as a visionary leader, all of these things will frustrate your team and the KPIs become worthless. So set performance standards so you can march towards achieving your goal, but you need to make sure that you're regularly assessing what's working and what needs to evolve. Too many people just set these KPIs without any adjustment. Just as you can pivot on your vision to reach your destination, you can also pivot on your KPIs if they're not working. Very few companies do this. If you do this, you're actually ahead of many of the companies that are considered leaders in their industry or within their category. Number 12 is environmental and social responsibility. Yes, we all have a responsibility for the environment and a social responsibility. Just make sure that you understand what you're building and the sustainability of what you're building. Visionary leaders understand they're building more than companies. There's a bigger purpose behind your brand and your company. They're shaping societies. Sustainability is a responsibility and it is not a trend, and they understand that. So again, let's go through these 12, what I call steps to leading with unwavering focus. Number 1 is strategic planning. Number 2 is cultural integrity. Number 3 is trend awareness. Number 4 is a community obsession like no other. Number 5 is investing in your team. Number 6 is having a global perspective as a leader. Number 7 is risk assessment and risk taking, both. Number 8 is technology integration, which is crucial. Number 9 is a knowledge culture that matches the investment with your team. Number 10 is financial sustainability for generational success. Number 11 is setting performance standards and pivoting if they're not working. Number 12 is environmental and social responsibility. So those are 12 points. You're not going to probably have all of these. I haven't seen a company or brand, even in the book that I wrote, The Visionary Brand, where it had all 12 of these. But I feel these are the 12 key things you need to keep in mind as a visionary leader to keep precision, vision, and focus. So at the end of the podcast, I always say, what's this key insight I'm trying to achieve here? And it's really focus creates forward motion. It's the principle of 2 steps forward. You may take 1 step back, but guess what? You've taken 1 step forward. So never take 2 steps back, 1 step forward. That puts you in reverse. So focus creates forward motion. Always keep that in mind. So true vision is not just imaginative, it's discipline. Stay disciplined with your team and with your brand. Keep focused on your vision and your destination. So it's not about how wide you see. Now keep this in mind. It's about how deep you go within that set vision. Don't take this shotgun approach, throwing stuff at a wall to see what works. It's not about how wide you see on your focus. It's about how deep you go in your vision. So precision vision helps you build a brand not distracted by noise, but guided by purpose. So visionaries are not just strategic, they're relentlessly intentional in their focus. So a final thought that I have on this podcast is, if your vision is your why, then your focus is your how. So that's my final thought for you. Just think about that for a minute. If you've got a why, this is your vision. This is why we're doing this. The focus is how you're going to achieve that vision. And when that focus is precise, intentional, and aligned with your long-term impact, it becomes a force that drives not just performance of your team, brand, company, whatever it is, but it's transformational and will make you generational. So in the coming episodes, we'll continue to explore each one of these traits and these principles that define some of the world's greatest visionaries that I outline in the book, The Visionary Leader, available for sale on June 30th. But for now, let's just sharpen your focus. Take a look at these 12 and move forward with clarity. So thank you again for listening to the Visionary Chronicles. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the Visionary Chronicles. We've got more episodes coming up, as we always do, with generational leadership, disruptive innovation, behind-the-scenes strategies from some of the world's most iconic brands and leaders. And if you're part of our visionary community, I always want to thank you. I get comments all the time from people that have questions for me. And why I like hosting this myself is that hopefully, as I present these podcasts and present these ideas to you as a leader, you can reach out to me, ask me questions and follow-ups, and I'm able to answer that for you. Your continued support fuels this movement that I have on building this community of visionaries. So until next time, keep building, keep leading, never stop pursuing your vision. The Visionary Chronicles is where we make the future and follow those bold enough to see it through. So thank you for tuning into the Visionary Chronicles today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. But more importantly, if you know someone who may enjoy what we talk about in the Visionary Chronicles, please share that with them. Always appreciate it. Appreciate that. And whenever you leave a review, it obviously helps me to extend our voice to other leaders that are looking to the steps to becoming visionary. So I appreciate that when you do leave a review as well. So when we talk about the next steps, these groundbreaking episodes we're going to come up with some interviews. And I'd mentioned it before, but it's through the art of artificial intelligence that we're able to bring some of these visionaries back to life. I can tell you, this took a very long time. The book took anywhere from 12 to 18 months to write. But this visionary interviews that we're talking about with some of the leaders that we'll bring back to life and interview them again is, number one, intimidating to interview Albert Einstein or Steve Jobs, but extremely difficult. So hopefully you appreciate as we do these visionary interviews, and those will be coming up in the next few weeks here. So we'll have more episodes here throughout the book as we go chapter by chapter. So as we wrap up this episode of the Visionary Chronicles, as a reward for those that are listening and part of our community, I have an exciting opportunity on the release of the book, The Visionary Leaders, 6 Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. It's nearing its release. I can tell you it's been a long time coming on June 30th. And I'm inviting you to be part of this journey. So whether you're an aspiring leader, seasoned entrepreneur, or just simply seeking some personal growth, a visionary leader will guide you on that journey and hopefully support you on your journey. So let's take those steps together. And if you'd like to receive an ebook and share your thoughts as an early reviewer on Amazon. Would certainly appreciate it. You can claim your copy on BookFunnel, and there's a link on the podcast episode here as to where to go to get that ebook. And the Visionary Leader is also available for pre-order, which also helps us extend the reach of the Visionary Leader as well. So until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, keep shaping the future. And thank you for your continued support, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. And I also look forward to the next Visionary Chronicles. And once again, thank you for your time. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon on the Visionary Chronicles.